whatever the company is, if it's a sales organization, they have a training model and they want you to follow the model. And what they never train you to do is be a human being in front of a customer. They train you to follow the sales pitch. And sales pitches may have worked in the 50s and 60s, but 2019, you're going to get a big fat kick out the door if you're trying to use a sales pitch on most people today.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Hi and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. Anybody who's been here before knows that I'm your host. My name's Rick Nuske, and on the line I have Allan Langer with me. How are you, Allan?
I'm great, Rick. How are you tonight?
I'm fantastically well. You and I were just speaking about this idea of breaking the mold of salesmanship, as it were. That idea of going to, let's use the car salesman example, walking in there and all of a sudden you're just inundated with all these questions, buy this, buy this, buy this. And that's just something that I guess is not so effective anymore.
No, it's not. And I've been in sales now. This is my 19th year, and over those years, I've always been puzzled, and I always kind of tilted my head on how salespeople are trained. You go into a company or you go into a car dealership or whatever the company is. If it's a sales organization, they have a training model, and they want you to follow the model. And what they never train you to do is be a human being in front of a customer. They train you to follow the sales pitch. And sales pitches may have worked in the 50s and 60s, but 2019, you're going to get a big fat kick out the door if you're trying to use a sales pitch on most people today.
Yeah, that's certainly some wonderful insight. It's absolutely true. Now, before we dig deeper into this wonderful topic, this is a hand in glove topic for anybody listening to the show today, Allan. I'd love to talk a little bit about you, your background, and how you came to be where you are today.
So interesting background. I won't bore you with the whole thing, but right out of college, I got into college athletics, marketing and fundraising. Worked in that field for almost 15 years, and it was a lot of fun. I got to do events and run all the football games and basketball games and fundraising and things like that. But after 80, 90 hours a week for 15 years, I was pretty much burnt out. And this is actually in my book. I was having dinner one night with a good friend of mine, and I told him I was thinking of leaving athletics, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And he looked at me and he says, "Why don't you get into sales?" And I said, "Sales? Who the heck wants to be a salesman?"
No, not me.
and right, I don't want to be a salesman. And he goes, "You're in sales right now." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Don't you sell season tickets? Don't you fundraise from alumni? Don't you try to get stories in newspapers? You're selling every day, and you didn't even know it." And he was right. And so I literally gave my month notice the next morning, and that's how I got into basically in-home selling and business development and things like that. So that's how it started for me.
Yeah, wow. So where are you located in this wonderful world of ours?
I'm in East Greenwich, Rhode Island is where I call home. So most of my selling for the last 12 years or so has been in Rhode Island, New England area, Massachusetts, Connecticut. Prior to that, I was in New Jersey for about 10 years.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, I think to myself,
Sure.
Sales, there is just so many different avenues that we could take this conversation down. But the first one that strikes me is based on what you've just said, Allan, about, how we're naturally selling in our day-to-day existence for the most part. If you think about, for example, children, if as parents, we're always
absolutely
trying to sell them on things. So if we can only share this insight as parents, for those who are not parents, prepare, because this is the best opportunity to sell anything in your whole life. If you can sell to a child, I think you can sell to anyone.
Yeah, when as I was going through the whole sales career when I first started, I became the rep that they flew me out to Atlanta, and I did a 2-week training session, and you learned the products, and you learned how to do the sales pitch. And I learned pretty quickly that doing the sales pitch, you're going to close, you're going to sell. I hate the term close, but you're going to sell 3 out of 10 people. And most companies feel that 30% closing is a successful rate.
Mm-hmm.
And here's how I look at that. If I meet 100 people and 70 of them tell me no, I'm wondering what the heck is wrong with me. Like, how is having 70% of the people say no, they don't want your product, a successful rate? So I look at it reverse way, and I started wondering why it wasn't working, and that's where I came up with the 7 secrets for my book, because people don't want to meet with salespeople anymore. That's the beginning of my whole book. People just don't want to meet with anyone who sells anything.
Yeah, and that's it's inherent in any business that has a product or service to offer, isn't it? You need to have that salesmanship, but there's a new breed of salesmanship.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the beginning of my book, it's funny because when I was thinking about writing it, I said, all right, let me, and I had all these ideas in my head about why people don't like to talk to salespeople, but I was wondering if it was just me thinking that.
Yeah.
So for 2 weeks, I asked everyone I met, whoever it was, a stranger or someone I knew, I said, I have 2 questions. Do you like to meet with a salesperson, or do you like to talk to a salesperson? And I wound up asking 263 people, and every single one of them said no.
No.
So then I started talking to actual sales reps, and I said, do you guys actually like selling? And the majority of salespeople said that they liked the meeting people part of their job, but they didn't like the actual selling part because they had to follow a script. So on one hand, you got basically 100% of people saying they don't want to meet with you because you're a salesperson.
Yeah.
And you got salespeople saying, well, I don't really like to try to sell to people. So how does anything get sold to begin with? It was a remarkable study for me, and that was the impetus to start the book right there.
Yeah, thank you. I wonder, how do you identify who is ready to buy? Is it something that, you just position your business as a salesperson in front of the right people, or do you just try to, blanket everybody with this approach? What are some of the steps?
Well, I think from a first of all, you do have to be in front of interested customers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the companies out there that do it, that they cast a really wide net, are the companies that are basically follow the sales pitch, and if you close 30%, that's what we're looking for. And could be 30 or 40 or 50% of the people that you see are not even qualified for the product, nor are they really interested in the product. So if you have any ability at all to really pre-qualify your customer, find out what they're actually looking for and their needs, that's number one. But then the steps become, to simplify it in one interview,
mm-hmm.
It's basically help people and not sell people. Never walk into a sales appointment with the thought of, I need to make this sale today, or I need to hit my quota today, or I really need to get this because I'm owed for my last 5. As soon as you do that, it's all about you, and you become the salesperson that needs to make the sale, and the customer smells that immediately or feels it from you,
mm-hmm.
or it's in your body language.
Yeah.
If you walk in, you forget all of that, and you say, I'm here to help you today. I'm here to help to solve your problem. And if they buy something at the end of it, and that's a sale is the culmination of helping them, great. But if it's not, at least you tried to help them and you move on.
So what do you recommend or suggest or think about if somebody who is in front of you, regardless of what industry you're in and what you're trying to sell
mm-hmm.
or promote, if you know in your heart of hearts that they are not a good fit for your offer, is it something that you walk away from? Do you tell them? How do you approach that side of it?
It's a great question, because too many sales reps don't do that. I think the sign of an excellent sales rep or a confident sales rep is knowing when to walk away from a customer, or when to know that that's not the right customer for their company or for their situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes with experience. I train a lot of young reps, and when I actually say to them, you need to walk away from this, they're flabbergasted. They're like, what do you mean I can't walk away from an opportunity? I'm like, this is not an opportunity. And worst case scenario, they may actually buy your product and then they become a nightmare customer. And you don't want to be spending your time with nightmare customers. You want to not only find qualified customers who are interested, but they're going to be good customers too, because there are people out there who just enjoy being bad customers, and they're going to complain and they're going to make your life miserable.
Yeah.
And you spend, who wrote that you spend 80% of your time on 20% of your customers?
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that you probably shouldn't have gotten in the first place. So I think to answer your question, it comes with experience. But if you ever get that feeling, for me, it's always following my gut. If you get that feeling that this customer is not a fit for your company or for your product, I would probably follow that gut feeling. Do the right thing for the customer. But sometimes you have to say, you know what, I just don't think we're going to be a right fit, but I appreciate you meeting with me, and let me see if I can get someone who can help you out.
Yeah, thank you again for the feedback. It's going to be great for our audience. I know this is something they're very interested in. There's a couple of areas I'd love to explore. One is the online sales space, as well as how the relationship between the written sales copy that you have available to leading up to I guess, a meeting with someone, and the messages that you say, and being consistent. Now, how do you connect all of these pieces together in terms of it being online from that first moment they come to your website and they see something about what you offer, especially for solopreneurs? What would you say to them?
So the first thing I would say is your website has to be, lean and mean. It has to be very clear, concise, not a lot of tabs. You should be able to, someone visiting your website should be able to know what your product is and how to get in touch with you within the first probably 90 seconds.
Yeah.
If they can't do that, they're off to another website. If they have to click 3 or 4 times to try to find your contact page or what you're actually even offering, they're going to go to another company. I see way too many websites today. As I'm in the marketing of my, with my book and checking out a lot of different apps and different services that are out there, I go on a website, and if they can't tell me in that first minute and a half what they can do for me, I'm going to go to a different service.
Yeah.
So that's number one. You really got to trim down your websites. I think everybody thinks the more is better, and it's really not. People are not going to spend hours on your website. You will, because you love it and it's your website, but potential customers are not. They want information up front. And then from there, everything has to be consistent, but it also has to be concise. In today's world, I sound like my grandmother, but in today's world, everything is it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's 160 characters. If you send an email to someone, my rule is no more than 3 paragraphs, and they're short paragraphs, and get to your point. If you start droning on and on, they're not going to read your whole email. So what I found is potential customers appreciate the fact that I got to the point right away, and they're more apt to respond to my note rather than a full page or a page and a half email with graphics and all these other things in it. So that's what I would recommend. Really trim your website and keep all of your messages to your potential customers short, to the point, cordial, professional, and I guarantee you'll get more responses.
Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking about this, and I'd love to switch paths in a minute. But I'm thinking about this online space. Do you recommend that if you have a physical product to sell and it's quite a high price point, that anything that you're trying to sell online is actually connected with a discussion like you and I are having right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you're selling a high ticket item, whatever that could be, I don't think no one's going to purchase the item from your website. It probably wouldn't even be an option, but they may contact you for some information, and that's where you have to be concise. But yeah, you have to, as quickly as you can get on the phone with that person, the better it is, because the challenge today is, especially if you're dealing business to business, if you're dealing with executives, they don't have time to talk to you. They don't want to talk to you. But if they need something, they're going to have to, it's like a necessary evil. So the person that is the quickest and to the point, and they know that, or they feel that person will help them, that's the person that they're going to really hone in on, because everyone else is trying to throw the sales stuff down their throat.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Don't fall into the trap of, let's say you're selling, I don't know, a $10,000 copy machine, just picking something out of the air.
Yeah.
Okay? Too many people fall into the trap of sending all of the copy machine specs to the prospective owner without even asking what the owner wants or what his needs are or what his problems are. The specs of the machine and all of those technical details should be sort of the icing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
He should not be buying on the specs. He should be buying on the trust of you and the reputation. And obviously you're going to have to talk about a few things, but he's not going to buy your copy machine because it copies 200 pages a minute over the guy who copies 175.
Yeah.
He's going to buy your machine because he likes how you treated him. Simple as that.
So they're buying an experience, aren't they?
They're buying an experience. They're buying you. They're buying liking you. There's a very, very funny scene on the show The Office. I'm sure everyone has seen The Office. They bring in, I forget the actor's name, but they bring him in to replace Michael because Michael leaves at some point, the director. And they ask him how he would talk to a potential client, and he said, well, first of all, there's no such thing as a product. There's never been a product. Products don't exist. He goes, relationships exist. And he was doing it in a really funny way, but what he was saying was 100% true. Many, many times the product, of course, is going to matter when they actually have it in their hands, but they're going to be buying you just as much as they're going to be buying the product.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to remember that. People are just not going to buy products, period. They're going to buy from someone they like, and then if you happen to have the product that they want, you're golden.
You're golden, aren't you? I mean, is the old adage "treat others as you would wish to be treated yourself" relevant here?
It is. It is. Like as I was honing my selling skills, for lack of a better term, I would try to put myself, as I'm talking to a customer, I always kept in my mind, I was thinking, do I sound like a salesperson right now? And if I did, I would alter what I was saying or how I was presenting it. Because if I sounded like one to myself, then I certainly sounded like one to the customer.
Yeah.
So yes, I always thought about, all right, how do I want someone to try to sell something to me? But now that's just me. I mean, there's also a lot of different people out there. There's a whole chapter in my book about the different personalities that you can meet. So yes, you want to treat others like you want to be treated, but also that person may not want to be treated like you want to be treated. He wants to be treated like he wants to be treated, and that's what you have to figure out.
So this is about,
in front of them,
I guess, understanding their avatar and understanding what your ideal customer would look like before you have a conversation with them, if you can.
It's understanding the ideal customer, but also understanding that your ideal customer will come in many different personality traits. So, for example, when I sold the high-end windows that I sold, our ideal customer was obviously a homeowner who had a certain income level, who lived in certain areas. But, yeah, so we had 1 million of those ideal customers. But if one had a aggressive personality, one had a passive personality, one had what did I call it?
Analytical mind?
I'm drawing a blank, but yes, an analytical. Thank you very much. An analytical personality. You have to approach each one of those customers much differently. So you have to be very quick on your feet on analyzing who's in front of you, and then really cater your discussion with them. I'm not going to use the word pitch, but cater your discussion with them toward what they want to hear. Like, for example, an analytical customer would want to hear a lot more technical information than a customer who's an affable guy who just likes to, wants to hear two things, wants to like you. Here's a couple of testimonials, and he's done. You can oversell very easily. You can just keep talking about stuff, and then they tune you out.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much for this great insight. It's just wonderful. I wonder when a new up-and-coming salesperson is learning the process, is there an industry that best suits them to start with?
Oh, boy.
I know it's a very big statement, I guess, to try and cover that in one response.
Well, in my book, I really try to, it doesn't really specify or talk about different industries. It should apply to anyone that sells anything.
Yeah.
Whether you're selling life insurance or cars or mattresses or, $4 million offshore oil rigs. I don't know. You can sell anything. If there's a human being involved on the other end, you're going to need to pitch myself here. You're going to need to read my book, because you cannot forget that you're dealing with a human, and you can't just drone on and on and on about all of the wonderful qualities and technical information about your product,
Yeah.
because you're forgetting about the person in front of you who's listening.
Yeah, this is that art of communication, isn't it? So when you're
Yeah.
talking to somebody, I'd love to go into, I guess, some of the steps that you use, the techniques that you use. Can you share something about the process with us?
Yeah. So if you break it down, you're going to want to, like I just mentioned, you're going to want to understand who's in front of you.
Yep.
And I break that down into 4 different main personalities in the book. Then once you're in front of somebody and you figure out, for the most part, you get pretty close to figuring out who's in front of you, then there's a lot of different things that you need to look for and try to feel for. So one of the chapters is about body language. It's amazing to me, of all of the millions of sales books that are out there, very few of them talk about body language. There's body language books, but there's not a sales body language book. So I outline about 15 or 20 different very basic things that you should look for when you're talking to someone to really know if what you're saying is getting through in a positive way. Like, I'll tell you a quick story about body language, and I actually put this in the book as well. So I was at this couple's house, and they bought a rather large purchase of windows. And as we got to the end and they agreed, I asked them how they wanted to pay for it. Did they want to finance it? Were they looking at doing, a down payment? So she pointed to, there was options on the screen. She pointed to a 12-month no interest plan. She goes, I think we want to do that. And as soon as I looked up, I looked at him, and he pursed his lips very slightly, pursed his lips, didn't say anything. But I knew that he didn't like what she just said, but he didn't want to contradict her in front of me.
Yeah.
But as soon as I noticed he pursed his lips, I said, you know what? I'll let you guys chat for a minute. I'm going to go outside and make a phone call. I'll come back in. You let me know what you want to do. When I came back in 5 minutes later, he explained that they changed to the monthly payment because he didn't think they could afford to do it in 12 months. But here's the thing. If I didn't notice the lip purse, they may have gone on and purchased at the 12 months, and he may have been so nervous about it could have been a cancel the next day.
Yes.
So little things like that you have to watch for. You have to watch their feet. You have to watch their eyebrows, what they're doing with their hands. When you get to a pricing situation, when you're unveiling the price, which I also talk about not doing, like unveiling it, they're going to have anxiety. It's called purchase anxiety. So there are. I know I'm kind of going all over the place.
No, that's
because you
fine.
asked about the difference. Yeah, but there's so many different steps as far as the chapters are body language. There's what we call social proof, where you want people to feel comfortable buying what you're selling because other people have done it. It's very common when you're on a website and you're buying something. Travel websites are famous for it. Like, you go and you look at a hotel and you'll see that little bubble pop up and say, 15 other people are looking at this room right now. You feel, oh my God, I better I better get this room because all these other people are looking for it. And even though that may even be probably fake, who knows if it's real or not?
Yeah.
But you feel better as the person buying it because 15 other people bought it. Even if it forced you not to look at any other rooms because you figured you need to make that purchase. So social proof is another thing. A huge, huge, huge thing to make people like you is telling stories.
Yeah.
I just told a story right there, and stories engage people.
Absolutely.
And if you don't tell stories as a salesperson, casual, funny, relevant stories to what you're selling or anything to differentiate you from the person that was there before you, you're just going to be a mediocre salesperson. Telling stories is absolutely critical in selling, 100%.
And it can be quite natural. And if you were to look at that person in front of you, even though they may be a complete stranger and that's the first contact you've ever made with them, if you look at them with the eyes of, hey, this is a close friend, how can I help you? That could be a completely different outcome.
It does, and the key with that is it has to be sincere.
Yeah.
Like, we've all met the salesperson that may say that, but you can tell that he's only saying it to make a sale.
Oh, you can feel it.
So you can feel it, and you not only are watching their body language, they're watching yours, and they're registering this this subconscious stuff that they don't even know they're looking at, but their body is telling them, I don't really like this guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
He just told me he's here for me and all that stuff, but there's something about what he just said I don't like. And you feel it as a person. It's nonverbal communication. So absolutely always be sincere. And if you're sincere, people will feel that, and it just not only becomes more enjoyable to sell, you really feel like you helped the person. You feel good about yourself. You're not going to have the stress at night of like, oh my God, I tried to sell this little old lady who couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that stuff anymore. You know, you just can't be that salesperson anymore.
You know, we've talked about being genuine. We've talked about being sincere, present in the moment. You know, all of these wonderful things, Allan. Now, I know that this rabbit hole goes very, very deep. So it's wonderful that you're sharing this with us, and I can't thank you enough. Are you working on any other books at the moment? What's happening for you?
No, I'm not working on any of the books, although I have a couple flitting about my head right now. But I am working on really my speaking career. I want to take this and become more of a public speaker.
Fantastic.
Motivational, and really go into companies and help companies with their sales forces, because I have a chapter in my book about sales meetings and how unbelievably bad sales meetings have become and have always been.
Yeah.
And you know, I would love to go into many companies and say, listen, this is what your sales meeting should be, not what it is.
Yeah.
And you'll have so many more happier sales reps, because this is what you need to change to. So yes, I'm available for that. I've done some individual coaching. I've done some seminars at businesses. My goal is to get on the TED stage soon at some point. So yeah, I mean, this is, the book was published in January, so I'm just kicking all of this off, but I'm trying to take my 20 years of experience and get it out there. So.
Well, that's just a wonderful mission that you're on, Allan. So if people want to find you, they want to find your book, where are we going to send them? So
this is what I'd like to offer all of your listeners. I'd like to offer them the first 2 chapters of my book for free.
Fantastic.
It's sort of like a trial run. If they like it, at the end of the 2 chapters, there's a link, and it'll take them right to Amazon, and they can purchase the book from there. So all I would say is I'm going to give you my website and then my email address, and if they email me, they will get the first 2 chapters free. The 10th person that emails me, so whoever comes in 10th, I'll send a free book completely. So there'll be a free book in there for the 10th person. And so the website is www.allanger.com. So it's A-L and then Langer, Langer.com. So there's 2 L's in there. So it's allanger.com, and then my email address is very simple. It's Allan, A-L-L-A-N, @allanger.com.
Thank you so much again. This has just been absolutely jam-packed full of golden nuggets for everyone to share. Now, I'm pretty confident that this book has just so much more wonderful content in it. I'm going to make the links back to Allan, his website, his book, available to everybody below this post window. Allan, thank you very much for spending some time with me on the My Future Business Show today.
My pleasure, Rick. It really was a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.